So this is the exercise that I was missing. The exercise says, find the ordinary form of the equation and then the center and the radius of the circumference whose general equation is, and I give you the general equation of the circumference. We got to make it look in the ordinary form, which is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equal to r squared. To do that, guys, we have to do the completing the square just like we did with parabolas. So how are we going to do that? First thing you got to remember is the coefficient of my x squared and the coefficient of my y squared must be 1 in order for me to do completing the square. So to get rid of this 9, I would have to divide everything by 9. Okay, here I would have to divide everything by 9. 9 divided by 9 gives me 1, so I have x squared. 9 divided by 9 gives me 1, so I have y squared. 18 divided by 9, I end up with 2. Negative 12 divided by 9, negative 12 nines, and 10 over 9, 10 nines, and 0 over 9, 0. Once you have it this way, guys, I'm going to organize my data. X's with x's, so I have x squared with 2y, y squared with y, and everything else that doesn't have a variable must go to the other side. So that's why I took this 10 over 9 and I subtracted to the other side. Once I have it this way, now I can complete the square, but I'm going to have to do it twice. One for the x's and one for the y's. So I take this 2, I divide by 2 and I square it, and I end up with 1. Same thing here. Negative 4/3, I divide by 2 and I square it. Simplify this part, guys, and you get 2/3. 2/3 squared gives me 4 nines. So what I'm going to be adding on both sides, it's both of these numbers. I add a 1 on this side and I add 4 nines on this side. If I do that on the right side or on the left side, I have to do it also on the other side. So I have to add a 1 here and 4 nines right here. This will allow me now, guys, to complete the square. I take these three terms. The square root of x squared is x. The term in the middle, which is positive, and the square root of 1, it's 1. So these three terms factor into x plus 1 squared. I do the same thing for these three terms. Square root of y squared is y, the sign in the middle, negative, and the square root of 4 nines, it's 2/3. This parenthesis squared. You put these three terms together, guys, and you get 1/3. This is the ordinary form of my circumference. And if I have it in the ordinary form, I can find the center. The center is going to be negative 1, comma, 2/3. And this right here, guys, remember that my formula says that that is r squared. So if this is r squared is equal to 1/3. I know that that is r squared equal to 1/3. Then to get rid of this 2, I have to do plus minus the square root of 3. But since I know that the circumference does exist, I only work with the positive one. Okay? And this, guys, I can rationalize. Remember that the square root of 1 over 3, it's the same thing as doing the square root of 1, which is 1, over the square root of 3. And to rationalize, you would have to multiply both top and bottom, or numerator and denominator, by the square root of 3. If I divide top by square root of 3 and bottom by square root of 3, you would end up with square root of 3 over 3. So once I have it in ordinary form, guys, I can find the center of my circumference and I can find the radius of my circumference. So that's how you go from general form into ordinary form. First, make sure that the coefficient of your x squared and of your y squared is 1 by dividing everything by that number. Then you put all of your x's together, all of your y's together, everything else on the other side. You do the completing the square, you add those numbers on both sides, you do your factorization, and that's how you arrive to the ordinary form of your line.